Yo, what's up and welcome back to another movie talk with Two Scoops. Today we're going to be continuing our series review of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So today's video is going to be about season 2 or book 2. So we're going to follow the same method that we did with the first video. I'm going to go through all of the episodes, or at least most of the episodes, the ones that stand out the most to me or I feel like are the most important. And in the end, I'll just give you a overview of what I thought of the season, and we'll just keep it going from there. So starting off, we have the Avatar state. So in this episode, they meet a earthbending general, and he's thinking Aang doesn't need to master all 4 elements to defeat the Fire Lord. All he needs to do is learn how to master going into the Avatar state, and we're solid. So this episode, for the most part, revolves around this general trying to figure out how to get Aang to go into the Avatar state. What's interesting about this episode is that we find out that there's much more to the Avatar state than just, you know, tattoos glowing and Aang getting more powerful. Aang has to actually know how to control that state. Otherwise, he can do more harm than good. So that's pretty much all that this episode was talking about. It's a little entry into the second season, and the season just gets better as it goes on. So moving on to episode 2, The Cave of Two Lovers. Now this episode is more of a laid back, funny type of episode. It's about Aang and the gang trying to get through this cave. They're just trying to find their way through, and not a whole lot to say about this particular episode. Like I said, it's more lighthearted. It is one of my more favorite episodes just because of a song that's sung in it. These they're really like hippies, but they're not gonna say that on this cartoon, but the gang runs into like this group of hippies and they're like singing and just real happy-go-lucky type of thing. And it's just a funny episode, but nothing really crucial to the overarching narrative of this particular season. So we're gonna go to episode 3. It's titled Return to Omashu. So apparently this is the episode when they get to Omashu. In this episode, they get to Omashu and they find out that it's been taken over by the Fire Nation. So Aang went to Omashu because he was trying to learn earthbending from King Bumi, his old friend. But when they got there, they found out that it had been taken over by the Fire Nation. And so clearly that is out the window. So now Aang has to find out how or who he can learn earthbending from. Moving on to the swamp. Now the swamp is a very instrumental episode because what it does is it introduces us to who will eventually be Aang's earthbending teacher, even though he doesn't know that. So what happens is the gang goes into this swamp, or they actually are flying over the swamp, and Aang, for whatever reason, feels like it's calling to him, and subconsciously he starts to fly down into the swamp before, I think Katara or Sokka, one of them, say, hey, you know, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know, I feel like the swamp is calling me. So anyway, they go down there and things get kind of crazy and kind of weird. Everybody ends up having visions. Katara has a vision of her mom. Sokka has a vision of, good grief. I'm just realizing doing this review that there's so many things that I left out of the season 1 review just because I don't know what my mind was. But if I just go back in season 1, in those last 3 episodes, Sokka finds a whole bay. Like, what is her name? Princess Yue. She's the princess of the Northern Water Tribe, and Sokka like falls head over heels for this girl, but she's engaged to be married, so you know it can't really work out. But, and not to spend too much time on it because I should have included it in my season 1 review, but Sokka falls in love with her. But it turns out that when she was born, she stopped breathing, and so her parents prayed to the moon spirit, and basically the moon spirit granted her life by giving her some of its life. So in the episode when General Zhao tries to destroy the moon spirit, which he actually does, Princess Yue realizes that she has to give back that life that the moon spirit gave to her in order for, you know, the moon spirit to come back. So, all right, going back to season 2, that's who Sokka sees when he's in the swamp. Aang is the only person that has a vision of somebody that he doesn't know, and that's who's going to be his earthbending teacher. And so that's what that episode is pretty much about. And moving forward, we have Avatar Day. This is a funny episode too. Aang and the gang go back to Kyoshi Island, and they find out, but it's not Kyoshi Island. It's the other side of Kyoshi Island, where everybody in that town hates the Avatar because in the past life, Avatar Kyoshi, they believe, killed one of their generals. And so basically this whole episode, Aang and Sokka and Katara are trying to defend Aang and trying to clear his name. But it turns out that, Kyoshi, Avatar Kyoshi actually did do the crime, but it was justified. But anyway, so that's what that episode is about. It's another funny episode. It's a lot of jokes in it. It's more lighthearted. We're not getting into the meaty stuff of the season just yet, but we're on our way. So if we move on to episode 6, The Blind Bandit, this is the episode where Aang meets his soon-to-be earthbending teacher. Okay, this is the episode where they meet Toph. Random point, Toph is the only person in the show who actually has a last name, or at least who has a last name that is mentioned in a season or in the show. Toph Beifong. Nobody else, you don't know anybody else's last name. Food for thought. But anyway, so this is the first episode where we're introduced to Toph, and in my opinion, this is when the show really gets its legs, because this is when the 4 of them finally come together. And whenever I think of Avatar, I think Aang, Sokka, Katara, and Toph. So it's like getting to this episode don't get me wrong, like I love all of it, I love it all regardless. But I just feel like that family, that Avatar group, that Avatar The Last Airbender gang life that you think about when you think of this show, you gotta have Toph. So at this point and moving forward, I feel like the show just kicks it up a notch. So moving on to Zuko Alone, episode 7. In this episode, Zuko decides to leave his uncle Iroh, because at this point they have officially been declared traitors or fugitives, so they're living under the radar. And Zuko just isn't feeling it. Zuko is like, Zuko is having an issue because he wants his honor back so bad, and he's conflicted. And so this is when you finally start to see the inner battle within Zuko between good and evil. And this is when his arc really begins to start. This is when Zuko is really starting to kind of go off on his own and try to figure things out for himself. So in this episode, it's mostly focused on Zuko, who goes into a town on his own, and he runs into this family, and he helps them from some earthbending soldiers who are kind of like crooked cops, you can call it that. And so he meets this family, and they treat him nice, and you can tell that he's conflicted because he's not used to people being nice to him anymore, at least people that aren't in the Fire Nation. And he's trying to be nice, but part of him is still kind of holding back. He's still kind of reserved. He's having an inner battle. But anyway, what I really like about this episode is that for the first time, you really get a glimpse into Zuko, and you really start to see that this dude really isn't so bad. He's just been misguided, and he feels like he has to do something that truly isn't what he wants to do. So that's what I like about that episode. Moving forward, the chase. So we've already been introduced to Zuko's sister, Azula. At this point, she kind of showed up for a small smidget of a second at the end of season 1. We were introduced to her in, I think, the first episode of season 2, but very briefly. This is where she really starts to become a factor in the story. All right, bitter work. So in this episode, episode 9, Aang is finally about to start learning earthbending, but he finds out quickly that it is way harder than he expected. And what I liked about this episode is that we see Aang struggle really for the first time. And I don't mean like in general, but I mean with trying to master an element, because clearly he hasn't mastered waterbending yet, but he's fairly good at this point, and it came so easily for him, almost naturally. And that's because there's so many aspects of waterbending that are similar to airbending. The movement is similar, the energy is similar, so it was easy for him to catch on. But earthbending, on the other hand, is the opposite, and so he's having a really difficult time trying to master it, because his whole life he has been taught basically to not use deadly force and to avoid and evade, and to, he's been programmed to believe that there's always a way around the situation instead of facing it head on. And so that's the problem that he faces in this episode. He keeps trying to figure out a different way to make the rock move, but he can't. The only way that he can earthbend is for him to stand his ground and face the rock head on, or face the earth head on. And so by the end of the episode, he figures it out, but it takes some reverse psychology. And what I liked about this episode also is that we see immediately that Toph is different from Katara. Katara is way more easygoing, gentle, words of encouragement when it comes to teaching. But Toph, on the other hand, is like, hey, look, if you can't do it, then I don't know what to tell you. Either you find another teacher, or you do what I'm trying to teach you to do. Otherwise, you out of luck. So, and that's just Toph. That's how she is. That's what you gotta like her. You gotta love her, I should say. All right, so it just came to my attention that I absolutely love every episode in this season. So for me to sit here and go through all of the episodes, it will take forever. So at this point, moving forward, I'm just gonna go to the episodes that are really significant to me or that I really enjoyed. Well, I have to talk about the library because this is the episode that was very emotional. If you loved Avatar, or if you love Avatar, you can't help but love Appa. And in this episode, we lose Appa. It broke my heart. And it was such a crazy situation how it happened. They're in this library and it's sinking. And Toph is outside. She's trying to hold the library up. And she's also trying to stop these sandbenders from stealing Appa, but she can't do both. And she knows that if she lets go of the library, then they're gone. But on the other hand, she knows that if she doesn't stop these sandbenders, then Appa's gone. But she's at a disadvantage because she's in this desert and she sees with her feet. She senses the vibrations and the movements of, what's around her. But in the desert, because the sand is so loose and mushy and just, not solid ground, she can't see very well. It's almost, I imagine it to be the same as like me when I don't have my glasses on. Like things are fuzzy. And so, she's at a disadvantage already. So this is when the gang loses Appa. And when I tell you, when I first saw this as a child, it seemed like Appa was gone forever. Like every episode that Appa wasn't there, my heart, it just was. But it turns out after I watched it again for like the 5th time, it finally dawned on me that Appa really is only missing for a good 3 or 4 episodes. But it just seems like forever because you really see the effect that not having Appa has on a gang. You realize how much of a difference Appa makes in their everyday life. All right, so we're gonna move on to episode 13, City of Walls. This is when the gang finally makes it to Ba Sing Se, the Earth Nation capital, and things automatically get a little darker. They get a little more creepy because as soon as they get into the city, they quickly realize that, for one, nobody in the city knows about the war, and the people that do know, I shouldn't have said nobody, most of the people don't know about the war, and the people that do know not to talk about it. It's a huge conspiracy. So this is when the season starts to get more intense. The gang is kind of back against the wall because they're trying to get some crucial information to the Earth King, but they can't because at every turn, the Dai Li, which is basically kind of like the FBI or like, the CIA, like, except they're dirty, and they're trying to keep this war like on the hush. So every corner, every turn, every rock that, Team Avatar turns over, the Dai Li are right there ready to either hush them or prevent them from getting that information to the Earth King. So this is when the season really starts to get more interesting and more plot driven, even though each of these episodes were leading up, like I said, the first season was more of a episode by episode. Each episode was more kind of self-contained. And this season is more of an overarching theme, which is trying to get the information to the Earth King and Earth Kingdom King that there's a war going on. That's the thread that's, going through this whole season. But this is the point where it really starts to become more of every episode is building up off of the previous episode. Tales of Ba Sing Se. I can't not talk about this episode. This episode is what makes this show so good. They had the ability to take the time out and give an episode that's literally just dedicated to character development, because that's all that we really get here. In the episode, or the short part between Katara and Toph, they have a girls' day out, and you get to kind of find out some stuff about Toph that you might not have known before. One, you find out that she is so hard and so resistant of any type of like affection or whatever, because she's kind of programmed herself to be that way because of the life that she lived, the life that, you know, was given to her from her parents, who were very protective over her and, you know, didn't want to let her do anything, and refused to understand or to see that she was fully capable of taking care of herself. Her parents didn't even know how good of an earthbender she was. They just saw her as this little blind girl that needed to be protected. And so leading up to this episode, all we see from Toph is her being hard, and, you know, she resists any type of effort to be a part of the group, and she doesn't like being told what to do, and she just wants to be on her own. She doesn't want to, you know, help carry the weight. She feels like she carries her own weight. And in this episode, we find out why. We find out that it's because her parents babied her so much that she just wants to feel like she can do something on her own, and that she doesn't need anybody else to help her. But moving on to Momo, let's talk about Momo, okay? I feel like not enough people give enough credit, you know, to the fact that Appa and Momo are animals, and they are so well developed, and they never even speak, except for when Aang is hallucinating in season 3, but we'll talk about that when we get to season 3. But Momo's short is about him basically missing Appa and trying to find him in a way, and he, you know, gets into trouble. But anyway, I can't remember exactly what happened in his short, but the idea of it is this, you know, from his short, we see just how much he misses Appa, and it's so heartwarming to me, and it's so amazing to me that the writers were able to give animals such, you know, character development, such feelings, such emotion. Those were synonyms. And this is another point where we see how Zuko is struggling to change. There's a girl that comes into a tea shop that he and Uncle Iroh, why can I never say his name? Uncle Iroh are working in, and, you know, the girl comes in and she's smiling at him, and he thinks that she's like a Fire Nation spy or whatever. So Uncle has to tell her, like, no, dude, she got a crush on you. So they go on a date, and it's real, you know, cutesy, and you can tell that Zuko kind of likes the girl, but he still is conflicted. He still doesn't really know how to behave, because Zuko is really lost at this point. Like I said, this is the beginning stages of his character development and his arc that's going to lead us all the way through the rest of the series. So let's move on. Come on, dog. Appa's lost days. Oh, man. This episode is full of the feels. This episode literally shows us everything that Appa goes through from the time that he's kidnapped, Appa napped, Bison napped, Animal napped. He's napped. He gets napped up, and it shows us everything that he goes through during that time. And it's such a heart-wrenching episode, because you love Appa. If you love this show, you love Appa. And the things that happen to him, I won't go into detail because I'll be talking forever, but this is a very good episode. Like I said before, the ability to give character development to animals is just phenomenal. The Guru. So this is the final episode of season 2. In this episode, Aang has received a letter from somebody, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but when I'll research it, and then I'll put it right here. Aang gets a letter from fill in the blank right here, telling him that he can help him master the Avatar state. And so Aang goes back to the Southern Air Temple. Yeah, I think it's the Southern Air Temple, and he meets a guru who as I just stated, is going to teach him how to master the avatar state. And so that's what happens in this episode. We see Aang slowly unlocking different chakras until he gets to a point where he can't. The final chakra that he needs to unlock requires him to let go of his worldly attachments. And of course, the first earthly attachment that comes to his mind is Katara. And he's like, what? I can't let that go. But he still tries. But as soon as he tries to do it and, he's getting ready to unlock the avatar state, he gets a vision of Katara, who is in trouble. And so he chooses to not go into the avatar state. He chooses to, what he thinks is going to permanently lock that chakra, which, and as a result, is going to prevent him from going into the avatar state at all. And he goes to save Katara. I want to say she was captured by Azula, and she got put in this underground layer. And when she gets down there, she finds out that Zuko has been captured as well, and he's down there, and they kind of have a heart-to-heart. And Zuko explains to her some of the things that went, well, he doesn't really explain to her, but she basically starts to see that Zuko might not be as bad as she thought he was. And this sets up one of the more important arcs that's going to develop throughout the rest of the series. And that's Katara being able to trust Zuko, because this is the first time that she trusts him. She opens up to him, and she even tries to help him, use her spirit water to remove his scar. And she thinks that Zuko has had an epiphany and that he's changed. And to his credit, I think Zuko really did think that he changed. But when his back was against the wall and his sister said that she needed his help, he traded on him. And, he went with his sister. And you can't really blame Zuko. He's conflicted at this point. Ever since he was banished 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, one of the two, once again, I'll look it up and I'll put it right here. Ever since Zuko was banished this many years ago, he's felt like he had to capture the Avatar. And so at this point, he's like, I got him right here. This is all that I've been wanting. And so he trades on Katara, and he helps his sister Azula fight off Aang and Katara. And in this episode, Aang actually does, or at the end, Aang actually realizes that he has to go into the Avatar state if he really wants to help Katara. So he does, and he is able to go into the Avatar state after he lets go of Katara. And then Azula hit him with some lightning, almost killed him. And that's the end of this season. It ends on a cliffhanger. All right, guys, so now that I've talked about all of the episodes, I just want to talk about, in general, this season. What I liked about this season, or what I loved about this season, I should say, is the storytelling. Like I said, opposite of season 1, where each episode was self-contained, season 2, from the start, every episode builds up to the next episode until we get to the final episode. And this season took the time to give character development into, this is the season where seeds are being placed that will grow in season 3. For example, Zuko and Katara's clash, or their feud. Actually, it's not even really a feud. Katara's distrust for Zuko. And if you've seen the series, you know that Zuko eventually joins Team Avatar and becomes Aang's firebending teacher. But before we can get to that point, Katara has to learn to trust Zuko again, because after he betrayed her in the season finale, she kind of was done with him. This season is where we first meet Toph, Aang's earthbending teacher. And like I stated before, whenever I think of Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm thinking Aang, Sokka, Katara, Toph, Appa, Momo. But I mean, I'm joking. It feels like Toph is there the whole time. It's kind of hard to believe that she's missing, or she's not there for a whole season and a quarter, I want to say. She shows up pretty early into season 2, so maybe not even a quarter, but either way, for a whole season at least, Toph isn't there. And so going back and watching it, it's like I keep waiting. I'm like, I need Toph to show up. The group is not complete until Toph is here. So that's another thing that I like about this season. When we get to Ba Sing Se, the conspiracies and everything that's going on in the Great Walls of Ba Sing Se is so interesting. It's so intriguing. Those might be synonyms. Look that up. Anyway, it's so creepy. You know, it's an episode where you see Jet get brainwashed. So at this season is getting darker than it was. The first season was more lighthearted. You know, you were getting to know the main 3 characters, or the original main 3 characters, and, you know, self-contained episodes. So it was more fun. It was more, you know, moments of laughter. And this season is still funny, don't get me wrong, but it's so well balanced with the deep and the dark and the mysterious that you can't help but just have your eyes glued to the screen. Like, I don't know, or maybe it's just me, but this season just kicks it up a notch. The writers knew from the start they wanted to tell a story over 3 seasons. It was planned out from the beginning. It wasn't, you know, get this first season out, see how it does. If they pick us up, we'll just go until we get canceled. It wasn't like that. They had a story that they wanted to tell. And so, you know, detail was given to each episode. And when you plan something out like that, then you have time to dedicate to episodes like the Tales of Ba Sing Se. And those type of episodes where you just get nothing but character development, no main story, like you're just learning about characters, that stuff is so important because it helps you. It helps you to connect with these characters. And so in the future, you understand when they do certain things, you understand when they have certain actions, where it's coming from, because you know who they are. And that's something that is done so well in this season. Characters get so much development. Like I say, Zuko begins his journey to becoming a good person in this season, and it's a slow one. And it doesn't happen the way that you think it would. You think at that, you know, the season finale, you think he's good. You think he's going to help, but he turns. And that's another testament to how good the storytelling is. They don't just hand feed you anything. They don't just give you what you think is going to happen. They make you wonder. And it's realistic. Nobody is going to change overnight. So you really get to see how slow and painful and how much of a struggle it is for Zuko to flip. And then you have his sister Azula on the other hand, who's just gone. Like, Azula is just, she's just evil. There's only one episode that I can think of where Azula, everything she does isn't like evil in that episode. So he grew up in a household with that. He grew up with Azula. He grew up with his dad, who banished him. Like, that dude had a crazy childhood. So the fact that he was even able to have a redemption in the end in itself is amazing. It's amazing. I just cannot give this show enough credit. And we haven't even got to season 3 yet. This is just season 2. My goodness. All right, well, I guess I'll wrap it up there. I think I've talked long enough. This video is probably going to be very long, but I just want to say thank you for watching this video. If you're watching it, even if you watched a couple minutes of it, if you skipped around, whatever, it's all very important to me. I'm just starting. I'm trying to find my groove. So for those of you out there who have been watching, who've been, you know, checking in to see when I got new videos, for even those who turn the notifications on, I appreciate you. And I thank you so much. It's only going to get better from here. I got a review of season 3 coming. So if you're interested, just hit that bell, turn those notifications on. Please like, share, subscribe. This channel is about to blow up. You want to be a part of that.